Welcome back to Talk of the Town, and with me today I have Kelley from the Sea Pines Community Service Associates with a very hot topic, right?
Yes.
Sea Pines dredging. So the association is, I would assume, knowing this is a historical problem, that they're just trying to find a way to obviously help the problem continuously, and who's going to pay for it.
Well, absolutely. We're trying to clearly define, look at all the options based on method, the way you dredge, the options available, the costs associated with each one of those, impact on the community, and then ultimately, how do we fund it from now until forever? Because the need's going to reoccur. They're not going away.
Absolutely. And it's not just sea pines, right? I mean, we're talking about all the basins. Are, you know, there's obviously going to be silt issues, South Beach, Harbor Town, possibly in the Shelter Cove area. I mean, they're all around. We have to deal with those issues.
Well, what we're looking at specifically are the waterways and sea pines.
Okay.
What these other areas have basically, the issue for us, probably the biggest hurdle, is the age of sea pines.
Okay.
We were the first. We were the oldest. The way our waterways were dredged to begin with and created was different than you would be able to do it now, much different.
Okay.
Quite frankly, those communities that have been developed following sea pines basically were done under different regulations and mandates than we had when we were developed early on. So that's created a problem. And again, we're looking at every method of dredging, the costs associated, and then how do we fund it? Historically, it's been paid for by the folks in those areas and on a voluntary basis.
See, that was surprising to me. I did not realize it was voluntary. I assumed, and again assumed, that it would obviously be the residents of Sea Pines and businesses of Sea Pines, but I didn't know that they can volunteer to or not to, obviously, help with it, help fund it, and in that case, the people that aren't funding it are still they're still reaping the benefits of it.
Well, absolutely, and you know, they've been able to make it work because the vast majority of those folks have stepped up and done it. I mean, Harbor Town Marinas hasn't been an issue. That the commercial operators, whether it's been the operator or now the resort, and those private boat slip owners have historically paid. The Calabogie Cay folks, the Back Creek folks, who are the only ones that have a disposal site within Sea Pines or access to one at this point, they've been voluntary. So not all the folks on that Back Creek area have participated in funding their dredging needs. So it's kind of been door to door, who's got economically viable enough to support this effort.
Right.
And there's been no mandate, which is unusual because again, the developments that have followed Sea Pines, if you have a benefit and you live in the waterway or the community as a whole benefits for one, then everybody participates to some extent.
I would assume that the benefit people in maybe the Sea Pines community are saying, well, we're not the only ones who benefit from this. The rest of the community benefits, obviously with the heritage, thank goodness, coming back, and other things that happen in the Sea Pines area. So, you know, I mean, it's huge for tourism, and those tourists that stay there, you know, obviously go, you know, they obviously help fund other areas of our community, you know. So I would imagine that they definitely feel somewhat that there should be maybe a little spreading of the debt to other areas.
Well, there are some folks that feel that yes, everyone in our community benefits from those waterways. There are other folks that feel that no, those are private areas. Those owners that are specifically live in those areas get the benefit, they should be the ones that are paying. Ultimately, that's going to have to be decided by our community. I mean, the boards can't do that arbitrarily or on their own. It'll have to be done by a vote or a referendum of all of our members, all our owners, resident, non-resident.
So how are you doing this right now? You said nothing's been decided.
Right.
So everything's still an option, or you're looking at viable options. So how are you coming to these viable options, and how do they have a say? Because I think they want to say, and a lot of them have a lot to say.
Sure.
So how do they bring that to the table?
Well, the way we've been approaching it for the past year, a little over a year now, almost a year and a half, is Community Services put together a committee, a Sea Pines Waterways Task Force, of which they made me chairman.
Lucky you.
Yeah, absolutely. But over the past year and a half, we've been tasked with exploring all the options.
Right.
And gathering the information, looking at the methods, looking at the funding, looking at all those things. And while the task force has not made a formal final report to the board yet, a lot of these things have come to light. We've been talked about in my monthly community meetings, Coffee with Cary. You can read about some of the input is in the board minutes, just a brief description of where we were as far as a task force. And then the board's published recently a joint resolution that has really gotten folks interested and fired up, and concerned, and rightfully so.
Sure.
But the key is that we were tasked with bringing all the options to the table.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Once those options are fleshed out, and some of them require legal review and accounting review and all those to see if they're in fact viable.
Right.
Then at that point, the boards will, the task force will report,
Right.
and the boards will then decide, basically through public forums, through educational sessions, which ones the communities do and do not, or would and would not support.
Right.
And then try and trim that down, and hopefully engage with our local representatives, town, county, state,
Right.
to help, should we need their help,
Right.
to get this thing solved in the long term.
Right. And Cary, if people have questions or they're just they just want some more information, where do they find that?
Well, they can go to our website,
Okay.
seapinesliving.com.
Okay.
They can call our offices at our number there at CSA. They can email me directly.
Okay.
They can email their board members. All that information is available on our website.
Okay.
They can also send their questions to the website, which
Okay.
we will answer and leave them posted on the website for
All
other
right.
folks to know.
All right.
The board is right now, hopefully next week, we will post a frequently asked questions on
Okay.
all the dredging. That'll be up on the website. And so we're trying to communicate every way we can, like this forum,
Right.
and through our newsletters and all those things.
Terrific. And Cary, please come back. As you know more information, we'd love to have you back on the show. So
right,
thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for joining us today on Talk of the Town.